We've determined that we want to buy one share of Apple stock, but there are a few more steps that need to be completed before we can go through with the transaction. And our next step is to determine our order type. And this function, the order type, determines how you want Schwab or your brokerage firm to execute your trade. And there are four different options. And the first two, market order and limit order, which we have right here, are generally the most common among novice investors. So let's start with the beginning. A market order means that whatever price the market dictates on the day of your trade, you're going to buy or sell the stock at, regardless of whether the share price dramatically rises or falls between the time you put in your order and when your order actually executes. And so in our example, since we're only purchasing one share of stock, our financial liability of choosing a market order is relatively low. So what do I mean by this? Even if Apple's share price, let's say, shot up roughly 10% and now costs an additional $12 to $13. That wouldn't really impact us all that much. But if you're buying 10, 100, or 1,000 shares of Apple, these sudden fluctuations in pricing can have a major impact on the amount of shares that you're able to purchase. So with a market order, you are really at the mercy of the market, and your purchase price might be significantly different from what you initially expected. If we look at a limit order, when I type in a limit order, so when you have a limit order, you set the price at which you're willing to execute the trade. So in our example, if I decide that I want to set a limit order of 125, I'm going to type that in. You notice that the estimated amount is now $125. That means that I will only buy the Apple stock if the price falls to $125 or less. And that's why our estimated amount has just changed. And so this basically limits my liability by preventing a purchase of Apple stock after the stock has jumped significantly in price. And likewise, if I'm selling Apple stock, a limit order of $125 means that $125 is my floor price, and I will not sell at a price any lower than $125. And this again protects me in the event that Apple's share price suddenly drops dramatically right before I'm about to sell. But again, in this example, we're buying one share of Apple. We've set the limit to $125, which means that we're only going to purchase if the price falls to $125 from 127.10 or it goes below 125. Now, the third type of order is a stop order. And buy stops are really only used when short selling, which, as we discussed in our initial video or our third video, this is something that novice investors want to avoid. So I'm going to skip this particular explanation. If you want to learn more about the order types, you can do so by clicking somewhere around here. You can click on the order type and it will give you the lowdown of what everything means. But I'm not going to go through the stop order right now. I can add, if I'm selling, I can add a sell stop if I'm looking to sell Apple stock. And a sell stop is entered below the current market price. So let's say I set a sell stop at $110. This means that if Apple stock suddenly tanks to $110 or below, Schwab will automatically sell my position. And the idea with a sell stop is that if the stock, again, suddenly drops, then hopefully I can reduce some of my losses or limit some of my losses by selling at a price that I determine before the stock price even falls greater in price. And finally, we have a stop limit, which is essentially just the combination of a stop order and a limit order. And since this is rarer and typically not executed by novice investors, I'm again going to avoid discussing it for simplicity's sake. So in our next video, we'll look at the timing function, which is right over here, that is also needed in order to execute a trade.